Continue right now with a panel on very timely question of what's the recipe for a successful ICO. And the people who will be discussing that are Ransu Salovaara, CEO of TokenMarket, one of the most popular platforms for ICOs, with over 30 ICOs conducted so far. Ransu, getting mic'd up, you're going to come up in a minute, I see that. Then next, I'd like to welcome Daniel Haudenschild, CEO of Swisscom Blockchain. He assists organizations to imagine and translate business challenges into practical deployment of blockchain applications. Daniel, welcome. Our next panelist from Bitcoin Suisse, this time not the founder, but the head of ICO, Nicolai, Oster, welcome. Next, I'd like to welcome Thomas Nägele, attorney and managing partner at Nägele Attorneys at Law. Welcome, Thomas. And our fifth panelist is Andreas Glarner, partner at MME, who spoke before and gave a keynote. For those who may have just joined the live stream, he's the co-head of MME's crypto team, which has structured the Ethereum crowdfunding event and has been very active in the ICO space. And the moderator, there's been a change to the program, but I'm very excited to be joined again by Eric van der Klei, former advisor to the Prime Minister David Cameron in the UK on tech policy. He's also, and probably most of you know him as the creator of Level 39, the largest fintech hub in the world, based in London. Today, he's the CEO of C4DR, the Center for Digital Revolution, which is known for building leading blockchain and crypto applications. Eric, for the last panel, have a blast for me up here. It's yours to moderate. Yes, exactly. We're close.
That's right. Close. Wow, you made it to the end of the day. That's a huge audience.
I know, right? Like, I got to keep them all. You too, because all of yours have poured into this room.
I missed Tim Draper. Did he make you sing? He makes people sing normally.
No, but he showed us a cool tie.
Oh, did he?
And we had some sign language going on when we had tech issues.
All right,
anyways,
we'll have a go. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to do the panel. Now, the good thing about this is that the panelists have no idea what I'm going to ask them. So I'm just going to let them have it. All the questions you might ever wanted to ask about what makes a good token sale stroke ICO, but we're afraid to ask. So actually, I'm going to start, if I may, with Daniel, because Daniel's a bit of a sparring partner. I mean, I don't know if you know, but firstly, Daniel, would you mind introducing yourself and tell us your role?
Yeah, so I'm Daniel Haudenschild. I'm probably still, in my mind, a partner at Ernst & Young, even though I gave that up towards the end of last year to become CEO of Swisscom Blockchain.
Actually, can I just say what that means? That means that Swisscom Blockchain, that means that the Swiss government, who are, what, 51% owners of Swisscom, are in the business of blockchain and ICOs. It's pretty awesome, that. I don't know if I'm even allowed to say that, but I just did. Good. Would the next panelist please introduce yourself?
Yeah, Ransu from TokenMarket. We are ICO advisors, and then we have an information portal that attracts about 800,000 people monthly, and 150,000-60,000 people on the email list receiving information on ICOs. So we have done some 30+ ICOs that have raised $370 million or so.
The first one, roughly when?
Exactly a year ago.
A year ago. That is a heck of a rate. Yeah. Excellent. We're going to come back to you.
Yes, I'm Nicolai Oster. I'm head of ICO at Bitcoin Suisse. Categorize ourselves as one of the world leading ICO facilitators and providers specialized in advisory, KYC, AML, storage, and in general the financial services which is relating to an ICO. And in 2017 we assisted ICOs raising almost $1 billion US. Thank
you. Thomas, tell us about yourself.
Yes, my name is Thomas Nägele. I'm a lawyer from Liechtenstein. We already heard a little bit about Liechtenstein today. I founded Nägele Attorneys at Law 2 years ago. Before I was a software developer for quite about 10 years. And yeah, we do advise some companies with ICOs. And We do work together with some project with MME in Switzerland, so that the clients have like to choose the best jurisdiction, and that's basically what we do.
Actually, so a lawyer that codes, right?
Yeah.
So can I ask you, is code law? Can it be law?
It can be, that's like a lawyer's answer. It can be, it depends. But I'm not the codist law guy totally. So I'm part lawyer and part coder. So that's like that's a tough question.
Does that make you ambidextrous, I guess?
Yeah, that's really, yeah.
Good. Okay, thank you. And Andreas, I first heard of MME, of course, through Olga. I said to her, who are amongst the best law firms in the world, I've got to be careful what I say here, who understand the topic, and she said, well, you've got to go and speak to MME. Tell us about yourselves, and why do people say that about you?
Oh, good to hear that they say that about us. I guess we've been in space for quite a time. I'm co-heading the MME crypto team now for the past 4 years. So we currently probably have one of the bigger teams in the space with roughly 25 people fully dedicated to blockchain projects. Not all ICO projects, obviously, but I would say 50% of our clients, they're in the ICO space.
Okay, I'm going to dive straight into it because there's some key questions we need to answer. First thing is, who wants to pick up the topic of what the Swiss government have done recently that helps, or does it help? Did anybody really feel strongly about that? Go on, Nicolai, go for it.
Clarity, more clarity, as Andreas was talking about earlier in his presentation. We went from having no clarity almost at all. We could only do best practice and applying existing regulations and approaches into the ICO field. But having a government and a public vehicle who is progressive in communicating out how people should place themselves and act within this sphere is extremely positive. And even though it might affect some in a negative way, then I think it's overall beneficial for the whole industry.
Let's pick up on that. Who's going to be hurt by this? Who's it going to affect in a negative way?
It's going to affect those ICO projects which maybe shouldn't have been there at all. Those who are in a rush, people who want to do things uncompliant, non-compliant, just want to get it out there, don't really care about, the regulators at all. I think it's going to hurt them. And of course, it's also going to, not directly hurt, but it's of course going to influence some actors who have taken a different approach in the past, who then need to readjust the path they are taking.
Okay, I'm going to actually ask the next question to Thomas. Do you want to explain the concept of a utility token?
The concept of a utility token. That's like if you, everybody wants to be a utility token, so all of your clients want to be a utility token. And actually, if you look at it very closely, I think there are 1 or 2% really utility tokens. Most of them you can classify in a different way. But it's at least, if you look at the Liechtenstein Financial Market Authority, and basically we have to convince them of our opinion. It's if the token has some kind of utility, like granting access to a network, or giving you something like that you can use it for a special purpose. Yeah. But it's like if it is not a security, that's like because our Financial Market Authority differentiates between security tokens, utility tokens, and like payment or currency coins. So, and if you're not the other ones, you're a utility.
So, off the top of your head, out of all the people that come through your door, bang, 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 hi, I'm a utility token. What percentage really are?
At the moment, really are, or we are able to convince the regulators that they are?
I love this panel.
That's a different story.
Thank you for your candor.
No, really, let's say at the moment, because this changed a lot. In the beginning, they were really, because we more had the techie guys, so I think it was a majority. But this number just dropped a lot, and we have more and more security tokens coming up, because now they know that this is a possible way, and it is possible to issue a security token. Yes, it is a lot of more work, but it's possible.
Now, Andreas, I know that your firm has been, let's say, helping the thinking with the regulator. Is that a reasonable way of putting it? helping the regulator how this should be
trying to helping the thinking.
Contributing, anyway.
Contributing, yes.
So I'd like you to quickly touch on, I know it's a huge topic, equity token. Describe.
Well, equity token, basically, I mean, if you understand it the same way, would represent real equity, like a share in a token. And thus, we clearly are in the security sector. And the idea is, and there's actually one project with Swisscom, a C-share project, which I believe the launch will be rather soon, on 9th April, to have on the token a C-share model, which is a share which is going to be a full functional in form of a token. So you have all the dividend rights, the equity rights, the voting rights built into a token model. I think this will be an equity token. Currently they don't exist, but soon we're going to be able to launch IPOs through a token.
I have to say, I've been reading about this. This is game-changing, and I think the world will be watching closely about this. Now, the panel is about what are the steps to make a successful, ICO. Now, I know, Daniel, that Swisscom Blockchain AG doesn't only do ICOs. I know that's only one part of your blockchain consulting enterprise. But you actually are doing some ICOs. I mean, one in particular I was quite excited about. Do you want to talk about that and talk about the steps to make sure that that is being the right type of ICO?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what hasn't been said yet around the utility token is the fact that the Swiss regulator, or FINMA, has recognized that there is a utility token, which is not what the Americans did, and it's not what the Chinese did, and it's not what the others did, right? So that alone is amazing. It just has to be said, right? Because that means we're on uncharted territory, right? In Switzerland, and that the recognition of this, they could have very easily just followed what the big boys are doing, where they've called themselves out, right? So when it comes to utility token, we're also interested because we're not lawyers, right? And what we do see is their interpretation of the lawyers' interpretation of the guidelines, right? And then we see that as an effect on what we need to do. What's interesting is that the utility tokens need to have a functioning platform on which you can procure services over the course of a blockchain that you couldn't procure before, right? And this service must be functioning, right? So it's not like you can take Bob's Shoe Shop and then throw a blockchain behind it, and now it's Bob's Shoe Shop on the blockchain.
But make it real. Tell people the one that you're doing.
Okay, so Welt der Wunder is a micro-licensing coin, right? Which is essentially...
Say the name slowly. Not everybody knows.
Welt der Wunder.
Yeah.
It's a micro-media licensing coin, right? It's basically the MILK token, M-I-L-C. And it allows companies to procure services for broadcast television media licenses over a blockchain-based smart contract service.
But it's actually offering this on some real media assets, right? These aren't, it might happen in the future.
No, this is real media assets, distribution rights, and syndication rights for a top production television.
See, that's exciting, isn't it? I mean, that's a real, well-established company choosing this as as an additional route to market for them?
Yeah, I mean, we voted in Switzerland on our licensing rights if we still wanted to give a couple hundred francs to the television broadcasting companies to build stuff, right? There's a kind of an expectation in television broadcasting that the quality of television is so low because there's a lot of grift that happens between the producer's content and the distribution, right? This aims to change that, but it also aims to change the business model, right? So there's a 1,000-click view model in there, right? There is an earn-to-view model in there. So these are smart contract that weren't available and possible before the blockchain.
Ransu, I'd like to ask you, because you've seen quite a lot of stuff, right? From the very first, but it's only a year ago, so not that long ago, your first So in that time, I mean, somebody told me today that Bitcoin years or blockchain years are like dog years, right? They're that rapid in transformation. So today, from what you see today compared to what you first saw, what are the critical processes and roles for a compliant token sale, whether it's equity or non-equity?
Well, of course, last year was a crazy year in that sense. Then there was a lot of fundraising based on a white paper, and maybe 1, 2, 3 persons on the team. And now, of course, we require now that there is a business model, token model, and that was also lacking last year. So then law firm has to be engaged. There has to be a legal opinion on a white paper. So it's a completely, and the companies now that we work with, they already have a seed funding anywhere from $500,000 to millions. and then they do ICO. So ICO is not anymore the first funding. It's not a seed funding. So it has really, some of the companies have big teams already. So it's massively changed.
That's cool.
Totally different.
I mean, I'd like to move the topic on because we haven't got very long for this panel. They've asked me to kind of shrink it up a bit. So here's the question. Do we think that ICOs will be replaced by airdrops and or larger private SAFT type sales, agreements for future tokens? That was a shake. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that is just, with that one, we go back to the rich get richer scheme where all these angel investors and high net worth individuals can do the pre-sales and invest, and SAFT is basically already dead on arrival now in America. That doesn't work anymore. So that one is, that model is no-go also because then these people just get tokens by joining a Telegram group, and then you get airdrops. That's not real engagement, and then you get few dollars worth of tokens.
I mean, that's a whole topic, but Nicolai, you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, I would say hopefully it doesn't Swift in that way, because even though 98% or 99% of all existing tokens out there right now shouldn't exist, then about doing an ICO is not just about raising the funds. It's about utilizing the token economics. It's about utilizing network spreads and network effects and get them into the value of your token, the value of your project. And if you're merely just airdropping, you're saying to people that this doesn't have value from the given moment right there. Yeah. But if people have to contribute or invest or whatever we choose to call it and actually pay for this utility token or whatever token it is, and get the spread out there and get a significant amount of participants within the network, that is where the real value of an ICO lays. And that's also why I think the Swift towards smaller ICOs, I like to see an ICO between 10 and 30 million. I don't think an ICO should go above 30 million. Nobody needs that. And you need to underevaluate yourself, or at least evaluate yourself reasonable and let the network talk afterwards.
So I'm never one to ask for more regulation. I really am not, but I really do want to protect this industry that we all love, right? So what do we think? Do we think regulators need to step up and do more? And do we also think the nature of these things is non-sovereign, right? It crosses boundaries and borders in many ways. Do we think that even any of the existing legal frameworks are fit for purpose? And do we want the regulators to be more active in enforcement or regulation, or is the current approach about right? Speak from a Switzerland perspective and also mention other jurisdictions, if you like. Why don't you go first?
No, I guess from a Swiss perspective, I believe what the regulator does, and I really fully share this approach, is being technology neutral. So they look at existing regulations, the FINMA looks how they could apply. Obviously, time will show if courts are going to share the same views, because there is going to be some enforcement activity over time. We don't know when and how, but there will certainly be some projects which are going to be looked at more closely. But I think this is the right approach. The other approach is to regulate it lightly, to leave sufficient room for this. It's still a very new little plant we're growing here, and we can't just clap it through with new regulations which don't fit. And I think Liechtenstein there has a very interesting approach, which we're going to maybe hear from Thomas a bit more on that.
What's the position in Liechtenstein?
Yeah, our Prime Minister last week announced that there will be a blockchain law released this summer. I'm not able to disclose the content of it, but I mean, that follows that idea. I mean, you have to have, for the industry, legal certainty that if you follow the rules and if you don't want to do a scam or whatsoever, that you're on the safe side, so you don't have to be afraid of enforcement. So to answer your question, yes, I think enforcement is needed for that we don't have like big bad cases. And regulation is only needed or is needed if you do it clever, that gives you legal certainty for the good projects. And that is absolutely needed.
I'm just looking for permission to go to questions or not. Yes? No? Yes. Good. Amazing audience. This is the panel to ask the questions for. I don't know if we can, but we've got to maybe have space for one or two. That was an interesting look I got. I don't know whether it was yes or no, but hey, it's better to ask forgiveness, as they say. This is an amazing panel. These are some of the world's leading experts in this field. This is the time to ask your questions of them. Anyone have a question? Please raise your hand, shout out loud, say who you are, and if you don't, then I'll ask them one, which is always dangerous. One at the back, right at the back. Wave your hand, shout out, run down there, sprint down. The microphone ninja is rushing to your side. While that's happening, please do think about any other questions that you might have.
Hey, Matthias here. I have one question, and the question is, how important are exchanges or exchange listings at the beginning, and how important are providing liquidity on that exchange for a successful ICO?
Who has huge opinions on that? Oh, Nicolai, how unusual.
Of course, exchange listings relatively soon after the closing of an ICO and once the tokens are released is crucial in order to keep momentum amongst the community, to get more traction and more attention towards the project. And it's all about accessibility. If something is not easy accessible and available for broader masses, then it's not going to get the adoption as easy. So it's not something you need to have or you're going to die, but it is something which benefits your project after the ICO, because we have to remember the ICO, that is not what this is about. It's about the projects. The ICO is simply just a vehicle in the process of getting the final product out.
Thank you. Two more questions. There's one. Please jump up, wave your hand over there. Got it. Go for it.
My name is Mike Burton. I'm the founder of Trade-Off. We've gamified the game of life. We've turned it into a game and an environment. I have one question. How much do you believe is a reasonable price to pay for an ITO?
Before that answers, would you mind passing the microphone and getting it over here? There's a question over here. Thank you. Sorry to make you run across. Thank you so much. What's the price you should pay for an ITO?
Measured in sleepless nights, or?
Good answer. Good answer. So, okay, cancel sleep for about, what, a quarter or two?
Certainly 3 quarters or a year.
Maybe this is one for Ransu. You know, what do people pay for this? You said they're funded. They need to be funded to be able to go through this.
Yeah, but exactly. We don't take any money in advance for ICO services because that gives us then an opportunity to postpone as needed and manage the ICO better when we are not on. We haven't taken money in advance and then we are pushed to go live on an ICO that doesn't work. So therefore, our ICOs have been successful even lately, and they have just been postponed until they're good. And they exactly raised that 10 to 30 million. So the answer to that one is that of course, it's somewhere there on between 5 to 8%, what you normally pay. And there you have to just look more for the certainty and quality of the ICO service providers than looking at the lowest price.
But I think, you know, if a corporate was going to, they'd want all the professional services really done because they've got to report to board on that. I think they would expect to pay something. Daniel, does Swisscom blockchain charge for these services? Yeah,
we have a similar model, slightly lower, obviously, but no. But it's a similar model. We don't also get involved in an engagement that we're going to be bound to. We'd rather work on a success fee. And so it's the same thing, right? So if the ICO is successful, then we're successful, and if not, then it's no fee.
We have literally the last question, one quick one. Go for it. Yep. Please say who you are.
Pavel Kravchenko, Distributed Lab. My question is, when do you expect coming of exchanges that can trade security tokens?
Thank you. Coming of exchanges that can trade security tokens. When?
Well, if it's up to us, it's soon.
Yeah,
what's needed? What are the critical path factors there?
It will depend on jurisdiction questions, obviously. I think talking about Switzerland, I expect that to happen within the next couple of months. So very soon. And on the long run, I think most exchanges will be regulated that way around the world. So.
And much needed services. And we look forward to even more of the established players like the banks moving into the sector eventually. I'm afraid we don't have any more time. I'm getting fabulous winding up signals. I can see them through the back of my head. So would you please put your hands together and thank my panel? They were fantastic. Thank you very much.